de inglés para negocios de importación. El día de hoy nos toca la sesión 6, que es comunicación y datos específicos del negocio, o en inglés, Communication and Business Specific Data. Vamos a ver ahora las consideraciones del curso, the course considerations. You must speak English during the entire conference. En medida de lo posible, me gustaría que puedan hablar inglés durante toda la hora de conferencia. Second, you can ask questions during the course of the conference. Pueden hacer preguntas que tenga durante el curso de la conferencia. Third, I will appreciate you sharing anecdotes, experiences, or problems related to the subject that we are going to talk today in order to help you. Agradeceré que pueden compartir anécdotas, experiencias o que me comenten algún problema que puedan estar teniendo ahorita en tema laboral que estén relacionados al tema de hoy. And fourth, at the end of each session, we will have an exam of 10 multiple choices questions with 4 alternatives. Al final de cada sesión vamos a tener un examen de 10 preguntas de opción múltiples con 4 alternativas. First, do you think that communication is important in businesses, especially in import businesses and international businesses? So first, as always, we are going to see what it is communication. So, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, communication is the act of communicating with people. So, what is communicating? Communicate, it is to share information with others. Could be by speaking, by writing, by moving your body, or using other signals. So, it could be by phone, by speaking face to face, writing maybe a letter, an email, a text message, by moving your body like I'm doing right now. This is communication also, and also using other signals. Maybe if you are mute and you cannot talk, that's another way of using communication, signal language. So also according to Oxford Dictionary, communication is the imparting or exchanging of information also by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. So, how is it the communication in international business? So there are good communication practices, and these are the most important. It is understanding a culture. It is their person's culture's impacts the way he or she communicates. In this case, it could be the way we speak and also other signals that we use. Another one, it is communication errors, that it is the local meaning of a word. So, I was speaking about good communication practices. In this case, I was saying first, we have to also really be careful about understanding other cultures. In this case, for us as Peruvians, how we are as Peruvians and our culture, Peruvian culture, it is gonna impact a lot how we communicate. So in case we are talking to other people from other countries, it is gonna be the same. The way their culture is gonna impact really, really strong on their way of their communication. In this case, for example, we have to understand that we're gonna maybe talk to people who is from many cultures. There are many cultures in the world, and we have to understand the differences. For example, in my experience, Japanese people, Chinese people, also in this case, all the Asian cultures are very polite. So they are not going to call you by your first name when they first met you. They're going to call you by your last name. So in this case, every time I meet people from Asian culture, they're not going to call me, hello Liliana. They say, hello Miss Kipusco. And then once we spoke and have a little more conversation and they try to become friendly to you, they maybe will start calling you by your first name if they hear that you call them by the first name. So in this case, we have to understand that that's how the culture works. They are very polite. And also they are extremely polite when it is about hierarchy, when they talk to older people. So they are more polite with them because in Asian, in Japanese cultures, they really look up to people that is older because they believe the older that you are, the wiser that you are. Mientras más anciano eres, eres más sabio. So that's why they are really polite. Um, Arab people. Have you ever talked to Arab people? I have a experience with, in general, with modern Arabs. I haven't had any problems. But when I was starting working in international trade, I had one experience with an Arab guy that wasn't that old, but he had like a strong culture of he didn't talk to women. So we were in a meeting, a business meeting, and it was via Skype. I was here in Peru, and the guy was in India. If I don't remember that, he was in India. So once they introduced me to him via Skype, he got completely shy, and he didn't want to keep talking. So I was politely asked by my manager to leave the room because he wasn't going to be continue talking if I was there. So I wasn't upset or anything because by that time I knew that it was their culture. Luckily for me, I have friends that are in the Arab culture. I knew how they were, so I was able to understand it and not take it personally. But it is really good to know how cultures are in order to know that maybe in the future I'm gonna have a business meeting with an Arab person beforehand. I'm gonna ask them him or another person, is he okay talking or maybe negotiating with a woman or not? So maybe we can arrange or let him know in advance that he's gonna talk to a woman. Because in this case, this guy didn't know that he was going to talk to me, so he was gonna talk to my manager that he was a guy. So another good communication practice that we must do is to avoid communicating errors. This is really important. This can be focused in the meaning of a word, a local meaning. So we have to do our homework. If we're going to talk, if we're going to make, in this case, import or business in general with another country, we have to look at the meaning of maybe the most important words. In this case, I don't know if you can see here this picture. It says the word piña. This is in Spanish, obviously. So in Mexico and for us, piña means the fruit. In Spain, piña means people gathering. So people that get together to do something really, really close, that's piña. And in Argentina, piña means to fight. So you see how in Spanish it is so easy to get confused that one word can have a lot of meaning. It is the same in English, for example. In this case, we use in English the word I get it. That it means that you got it, but you got what? Because got means that I get it, right? That I got something in my hand, maybe. But I get it means I understand. So for us, we can understand if we are learning American English, we are gonna understand that I get it means I understand. But other people that are not so comfortable or doesn't have that experience with the language, they're gonna see what do you get, or what you have. You see how you can misinterpret that word. So we have to do our homework. Are we talking to a person that really, really has a lot of experience in English? Or maybe it is a person that doesn't speak English too much. So I can maybe use more basic words and be more, speak a little more slow, speak a little more slow, or maybe don't use so hard words so he can understand me. and that is a problem that I have a lot when I talk to Chinese people in this case. Um, every time I try to get a quote for international trade uh, for a flight operator, an international flight, they don't speak really good English, so maybe we always have a lot of trouble when we spoke on the phone because they don't understand me. And it is not because I don't speak good, it is because they have a really basic English. So for them, it is better to send an email so they can see it and they can maybe translate it in Google Translator and they answer me back. And you can see also when they answer you back that their English is not good. And when you look at it in the Google Translator, you're going to see that they are using that as a tool to interpret it. So that is really important. Another one, um, it communicating errors also means about being disrespectful to another culture in the way of communicating. In this case, oh, wait, can you see this clearly? Do you see this picture? In 2012, there was a girl that is called Malala Yousafzai. Have you heard about her? She is a girl from Pakistan. She won Malala. Perfect. So she won a Nobel Prize. So in 2014, I don't know if you, I'm guessing Caroline knows the story. I don't know if the other person that I want to see the video knows it. So I'm going to explain it a little bit. So in 2014, Malala was on the bus, and she was known because in her country, in Pakistan, she talked about how the country dictators were trying to, they completely took the right of education in girls, in women. So she was the daughter of a teacher. So she was really a person that spoke for women, and she was really young. I guess she was 16 by that time. So she was known, and she also was a woman. So the Pakistan people that was against her, they were really angry at her because she was a woman and she was talking about women's rights in a country that doesn't care a lot about women. So what they did in 2014, in 2012, I'm sorry, a guy went on a bus and asked, "Who's Malala?" And when she turned, he pointed a gun at her and he shot. And the bullet came through her head, but miraculously, it didn't kill her. It took a weird deviation, the bullet, and it went through her mouth, and then it crossed on her shoulder. So she survived after a lot of, after many surgeries, and she also had to do a lot of rehabilitation time, but she survived. And then she took that experience as she was like be born again. So she was more when she wake up 10 days later, she was in the UK. If I don't get lost in the story. So she used that experience as she was born again. So she started talking more about women's rights from the outside Pakistan. So in 2014, she won a Nobel Prize. And there was a mattress. Do you know what is mattress? A colchón. A mattress brand that it is named Crow. Oh, so this mattress made an advertisement that it was from an Indian company called Ogilvy. Ogilvy. So this company made an advertisement that is this one. That you see here Malala standing and you see a gun in here. So it says that they shot her and you can see how she is going back. You see that here she has like a blood bath and then she go into the mattress, and then she bounce back. She goes up way, all the way up, and she's here receiving her prize. So the advertisement was like, if you use curl on mattresses, you're gonna bounce back. So they were using the bounce back like in a literal way because she was really bouncing up in this case, but also in another way, like saying that she had a terrible experience and then she bounced back and she won a Nobel Prize. So, do you think this advertisement was disrespectful to her? What do you think, Caroline? Correct. So, internationally, this advertisement was considered being disrespectful to Malala and her culture because they didn't saw it as they were like focusing on the part that she came back. They focus on this. But you were talking about a 16-year-old girl who was being shot in the face, and it was maybe kind of a bad joke and also disrespectful to her. So this was a really huge communicating error from the advertisement company, and it was immediately take off. But once you put something in the internet, it's gonna stay there forever. So that's the story of that advertisement. Also, I don't know if you have seen um, this this one, the Colgate beef lasagna. Colgate. What do you think when you hear Colgate? So, in this case, communicating error also means about not just the disrespectful or the meaning of a literally of a word, but also what a country or a culture thinks of something. In this case, a brand. So when I say to you Colgate, you immediately think about what? Cleaning your teeth, right? So you think about Colgate. So in this case, Colgate in 1982, toothpaste, right? So in 1982, Colgate made like a business jump, and they were selling the toothpaste, but also they started selling instant meals, ready to go meals, ready to eat meals. So this was on the USA, but they made also a huge communicating error because they didn't think about the local meaning of the brand. Colgate was associated with toothpaste, so it was associated with cleaning your teeth. So nobody wanted to buy a lasagna that it was from Colgate because they say that it doesn't make sense. So obviously that business jump failed because they have to take it out of the market because it didn't work. So we have to look on all of that. We have to be aware on all of that. Just not just the literal meaning of the word, but maybe a brand or maybe if we're doing advertisement, what to the other person is gonna think about. Now, continue talking about communication in person international business. We're gonna talk about ticket and communication. So in this case, etiquette and communication. In this case, etiquette. It is a combination of behavior and communication. How other culture behave. So in this case, we can also talk about the Asian culture. They have a really strong hierarchy, and this hierarchy, they're gonna look up to older people, and also we have to. Carry wait, let me continue this, and then I will read your comments. So we we can talk about Asian cultures, and also like I was telling to you, about hierarchy. They look up to older people because they think they are wiser. But also, it can mean etiquette in the way when we greet somebody. Where if we meet with a Japanese person, they do the bow, right? Like Obama is doing here. But on the other hand, general people from Occident, we handshake, like in here. So, if we know that we are going to meet someone that is it is not from our culture, we have to do our homework and learn and or read at least how they are gonna behave. So in this case, you can see that Obama did his homework because he's bowing, and on the other hand, Akihito, that it is the Emperor of Japan, did also his homework because he's handshaking and not doing a bow. So finally, another good communication practice is written communication. In this case, nowadays we usually do our business via cell phone and also via text messages, via email. So it has become like very technological. So, but when you have a language difference, it is really hard because via an email you cannot hear how the people voice is, so you don't know if the people is maybe making a joke or he's talking serious. And maybe even though you are on a cell phone, you cannot see the people's face. You are not face to face, so you don't know if maybe his face says that he's uncomfortable or that he is comfortable with what you're saying. So it is really, really hard. So a good communication practice is to be very formal when you communicate via written communication, in this case, maybe a text message or maybe an email. Why? Because the less formal you are by communicating via technological way, you can cause confusion and misinterpretation. So it is really important that, for example, do our homework and grade in a proper way. In a proper way. For example, always use the Mister. If we want to go a little further and we're talking to Japanese people, maybe add the word "san." I don't know if you have heard that when you say the person's name, I have heard with the first name that maybe they're going to say Liliana-san as a respectful thing, as a respectful way of talking to you. So if you want to go a little more, a little more over, you can use this expression. So now we're gonna see how to overcome cultural barriers. So in this case, when you have a cultural barrier, it means that you cannot communicate well. You cannot have an effective communication because of the culture, because of your culture and the culture of the person you are talking or doing business with. It collides. So it becomes a barrier and you cannot communicate effectively. So, culture, like you can see here, consists of the socially transmitted behavior patterns, attitudes, norms, and values of a given community, where a nation, an ethnic group, or even an organization. So a it doesn't mean just a person. It can mean a community. It can mean a country. It can mean an ethnic group, or maybe an organization, a company. So in this case, what do we have as a cultural barrier? We also have to know that when we are doing communications, we have to achieve objectives, the same objectives. We want to build relationships, and through negotiation, we're going to resolve disputes. So in this case, we may have, if we have cultural barriers, we're going to have communication problems. Like I was saying to you, the Asian cultures are really, they are very different from us. So they have really specific things that maybe are not the same with us. For example, a communication problem can be that Japanese, they don't say no directly to you. I don't know if you have experience, Caroline. They don't say no to you because they think that saying no to another person is rude. So maybe they're gonna say, I think it's difficult, I don't think if we can make that happen. It means a mischief, no. So we have to learn this and we have to do our homework because maybe a Japanese client we're gonna give a price and they're gonna say, I think it is difficult that I can buy to you at that price. And it doesn't mean that he's gonna try because we may think, oh, he says it's difficult, but maybe he's gonna try. So it means a no, but they are not going to say directly no to you. So we have to take that in account. Another one, it is difficulties to understand each other's behavior. In this case, for example, others' behavior can mean as affection or maybe family. For example, affection, when we greet another person, we are really, we like to hug and to kiss. And for Asian people, is really public display of affection. It is not good on the street, public, publicly, publicly. So they are going to have difficulties to understand why we are so passionate about greeting someone and giving a kiss or hugging someone or being so expressive. So that misunderstanding of our public display of affection, it can become a barrier, a cultural barrier. Also, hierarchy. For example, um, I was talking to a Japanese guy. I was making business. He was very strange because he didn't understand why the owner of the company had all his family working with him as also managers. The owner of the company was the CEO, and the manager from commercial manager, general manager, and I think it was sales manager, they all were his children. So he said, why? He's hiring his family. So for him was like he told me, I don't think he should hire his family. He should hire the most capable, the most adequate person for the job. So why am I gonna hire my son if I know that he's no good at the work? If I can hire someone that is a specialist at that specific work that I need him to do. So this was really hard for him to understand. Why? Because they try to use the person that it is the most adequate for the job instead of hiring family. On the other hand, in Peru, we have like we don't trust people. So when we are going to have doing maybe a business or something, we prefer to hire our family or our friends because we trust them. So we think if I trust my son, he's not going to steal from me. So I'm gonna hire him maybe as a general manager. So that difference between cultures also can become a cultural barrier. Another one, it is cultural considerations, in this case, in form and substance of the deal. So, in this case, it means that maybe you can meet halfway. How can we say this? I don't know if maybe you can have you eaten before in KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken? I'm guessing you have. Of course. Perfect. So, do you remember that 6 years ago, it maybe it was crazy to think that KFC would have lentejas on his menu? It was crazy to think that, right? So, a couple of years ago, I went to Ecuador, to Guayaquil. So, as the food junkie that I am, I go to it to every place I can, especially if I haven't eaten the place. So I went to KFC, I went to McDonald's, I went to Wendy's that I have never tried before, and I heard that it was really good. So I found something really funny. In Ecuador, the KFC had like lentils. They had like mm, lentils, and they also have rice, and it was really weird to me to see that, because you don't expect on a KFC to have that kind of food, and they also had menestras, so it was really weird. So I asked, why do you have rice in here? Why do you have lentils? Why do you have minestra? And they say because people in here always eat that. They even had like a fast food that only sell menestras. And they said uh, beans, black eye beans, and all that kind of stuff. So they said that KFC was having problems to sell because they didn't sell this, especially when you went to have lunch. So they create a menu that consisted in rice, in beans, and a piece of fried chicken. So for me, it was crazy. But then 1 year later, um, I went to KFC and I saw that they were selling rice, they were selling corn, choclo, and they were selling also lentils and a piece of um, a piece of fried chicken. I don't know if you have seen this, Caroline, but I don't eat that much now that, but I don't remember if it is still in the menu. But why they did this? Because they try to have a consideration for the other culture. So they transform the meaning or the main core of the business, that is sell fried chicken, and they are going to adapt that to our culture. So they start selling their fried chicken, but also putting a little of our own culture, that it is the lentils or the rice or the corn, right? So that is a really simple way of seeing cultural consideration to broke that barrier and be more in touch with the other culture. So now, what can we do in order to avoid or to overcome cultural barriers? So in this case, we can do our research. Like I told you, when you're going to talk to another country, another culture, you can do your research. You're going to see, oh, I'm going to speak to a Japanese person, so I'm going to do a little research about Japanese people, and maybe I can, if I know that I'm going to have a meal with a person, I'll do a little research about what things, what manners I am supposed to have in order to eat with that person and not being disrespectful, or any other culture that you're gonna do business or talk to, or have a relationship to. Another one is to respect the differences. Always, in order to overcome cultural barriers, you have to respect. You may not agree, you may not like, but you have to respect. If it is something that it really overcomes and goes beyond your personal um, values, maybe you can politely ask to be dismissed, and you can get out of that business meeting. But if it doesn't affect you that much in terms of values, you can stay there, and you just have to learn to respect the differences so you don't create a cultural barrier. Another one is to be aware of how your culture is perceived. In this case, you're going to see when you speak to people, especially when you're doing business, that especially when you're gonna buy and the other one and the person that is outside is gonna sell to you, they are going to do their research. So they're going to do their homework, and you can see how they perceive our Peruvian culture. So every time I have talked to Asian people, they try to be really friendly, and you can see that they're really serious, that they don't tend to smile, but when they talk to you, they have done their homework and they know that we are like really um, affectionate people, so they try to smile and maybe do a little joke and try to learn a little more about you in order to know how far they can go with the relationship, with the business relationship, and how friendly they can be to you because they know we are friendly. Generally, we are friendly as Peruvians. So it is important to be aware how they perceive because maybe if they have done their homework but they have maybe read somewhere that we are not nice people and they're going to come like really serious and very scary, we can tell them and we can know, hey, you can be we can be a little more friendly to them so they can know that they don't have to be so stiff. Another one is to build a bridge for cultural barrier. In this case, can you build a bridge if you have a cultural gap? You can make it by maybe knowing, seeing what you have in common. So talking to the other person and see what you have in common. Maybe if you have the same goal that it is to grow a business, or maybe you can have the same experiences, or maybe the same interests. Maybe not just in business, but maybe you can have the same interests. Maybe you like soccer and the other person likes soccer, or maybe you have experience. I don't know. I was talking to a Chinese guy, so um, I was talking to him about buying a machine, and he was like really, really nice, but really shy. So I had like a 2 hour ride with him in a taxi. So it was gonna be really weird. We were just quiet, looking at our phones. So I started talking to him, and we started sharing experiences. Um, we found that I had worked in a company that he was related previously to. So it was an experience that we have in common that it made more easy to break that gap that we have that we didn't talk during the ride. So it made a bridge. So we overcome that cultural barrier as he was more friendly and we were able to make more conversation and we were able to do business. So we have to do this in order to overcome barriers. Also, English, the language, is really important. Why? Sometimes right now, the three most important languages are for doing businesses and in general, it is Chinese because there's a lot of Chinese people, English because most people speak English, and also Spanish. So, but in my case, as I can see, the most important, from my point of view, language to do business, it is English, and also it is a language that is spoken by 20% of the world. And also, from that 20%, the 76% of that 20% doesn't have the English language as a second language. So there's a 76% of people that learn it in order maybe to travel or maybe doing business. So it is really important. If we know we're going to talk to people that is abroad, maybe we can do a little research. Do you speak English? Do you don't speak English? Maybe you speak Spanish, or maybe you speak another language that you have in common. So now, about business specific data. Every time you're doing business with another country, with another company from another country, it is important to have to ask for some information so you can do a little research, so you can learn that you are not being scammed, que no te están, que no te van a, ¿cómo decirlo? Que no te van a, que no te van a estafar. So, In this case, what is the information that you can ask? You can ask the full legal name of the firm. In this case, for example, for here can be maybe Corporación de Plásticos S.A. or Corporación de Plásticos SAC. So that S.A., that is Sociedad Anónima, that SAC, it is the complete with the previous name. It is the full legal name of the firm. So you always have to ask that because that it is like the first name and the last name of the company. So you're gonna identify it and find it by that. Also, you can ask the trade name or the doing business as name, the DBA. This is really important, the DBA or the trade name. So in this case, it means that maybe I am Corporación de Plásticos SAC, but my trade name or my DBA name is going to be Coplaza, that it is Corporación Plásticos SAC, S.A. So Coplaza, that's my trade name, my DBA name, but my full legal name, it is the other one that is said previously. So it is important. Also to ask always the physical address. So you can look it up on the on Google Maps, so you can see that there's an office there. So maybe, especially when you're doing business outside and you cannot travel to the other company's country, you can be scammed. So it is really good to have the physical address because maybe you look it up and you see that there's nothing. It is just field. So you're gonna see how can a company have a physical address in a place that there's nothing. So you can see a little more that maybe that's a scam. Another one is obviously to ask for the country. In this case, it is a must because we're talking about international business. So in this case, if we're doing local business, of course, we know that it's going to be Peru. But maybe if we are talking to another country, to another people from outside Peru, and they give you the physical address, you need to ask for the country because you are not going to guess it. Maybe you are talking to someone that looks Chinese, that sounds Chinese, but maybe he's from his company is located in Japan. So you always have to ask for the country. Also, in physical address, there's city, state, the postal code. As if I don't mistake, if I don't, I think I teach you the last, the last session or the previous one, how to look for the postal code in Peru. But also, when you talk to other people in other countries, you have to ask them for the postal code because it is the most easiest way to find someone to find a place, or maybe you're going to send a package or a package. It is more easy to that the package doesn't get lost. Also, a telephone number, but in this case, it is better if we ask the complete telephone number. So, for the telephone number, it is important to ask with the complete code for a country. For example, in this case, for Peru, it is the plus 51, that is the code of the country, and then you give your cell phone number, or maybe if it is an office number or a house number, it's going to be plus 51 and another one because it is from Lima. If it is from another region or province in Peru, it's going to have another code, and then you give the office number. So when you're doing international business, it is important to ask for the complete with the code for the country and the code for the state, for the city that you are going to talk to. Another one is the website address. Why it is important? Because via the website we can have like a hint if that company is investing in their marketing, and if the more they invest, it is most likely that they are going to be like a serious company. Even though we don't have to just trust on the website, we have to look at all of this because maybe they are really good scammers and they spend a lot of money on a website, but even though they have a website, they are not they are scammers. So we have to look at all of these, like I told you, at all of these specific business information in order to see if a company it is if we can trust on a company or not. So lastly, we have business intelligence. In this case, we're going to use tools in order to get information for not just from another company. We can use this to find a company, but also to know how the market is. In this case, maybe to see how the country that we are going to buy from or to sell to, it is also not just the country, but also how the if we are using the international trade words. So maybe if we're going to use some international trade terms, like maybe use tariff, arancel aduanas. So maybe we can use this these tools in order to know how the market is doing internationally. So I don't know if you have seen this, if you have seen these websites, these trade websites. Have you seen them? No. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna share my page so you can see. I'm gonna really quickly explain you how you use them. In these websites, you can get information for how the market is going, how a country is doing in general. So maybe if you are just starting to get interested in doing some business, you can see it is correct or maybe no, it's not going to be, it's not going to make too much profit, so you don't invest on that. So first we're going to see trademark. Okay, so trademark. No, trademark. No. Let's see this one. Okay, wait. This one. It is the Observatory of Economic Complexity website. Okay, let me know if you can see this. Can you see the website? So once you go to a website, that it is the one that I put there, you're gonna click here in countries. You can click in products or also countries. So we can click in countries, and we're going to see all the countries that we can search. For example, there's going to be Philippines, and if you scroll down, you're going to see more countries. You have to consider that this website has a lot of media interaction, so it's going to be a little slow. You can put there in here, I don't know if you see here, in the magnifying glass, and you can put the country, you can write. For example, we're going to see Peru. So we click on Peru. We wait a little, like I told you, has a lot of it is very interactive, so you're gonna see. So we see how the exports are going, how imports are going, how's the GDP. So if you scroll a little bit down, you're going to see here how exports are going. So you can see here. You can see here about copper, about gold, about coffee, grapes, and the percentages. And the date is information from 2016. Then, if you scroll down, you can see imports. And you can see what are we importing. What did we import in 2016? So we can see the broadcastment, the equipment, the cars. So it is really interactive, and we can get a little more to know how other countries doing. Maybe if it is a country that we are gonna do business with. Also, we can look for products. For example, We can see there all the products, but we can also in the magnifying glass in here we can look for another product for, let's say, leather. So we're gonna see that the top exporter of trunk and cases made of leather, it is China, and the top importer it is USA. So maybe we're gonna do business like importing, buying, or selling leather trunks. We can see maybe exporters. China is the most big one. Then it comes France. So maybe if we're gonna buy, we can ask for quotes in China and France because they are the ones that produce more. So it's more likely that we're gonna have a better price. So maybe if we're going to sell those products, we can use here, and we can see that the top importer is United States, and then it comes Hong Kong and Japan. So if we're going to sell, we know that we have a better chance of selling those products to the United States, Hong Kong, and Japan. So it is a really, as you can see, a really nice web page to look for information in order to do business intelligence. Another one is VeriTrade. I don't know if you have heard about VeriTrade. VeriTrade is also a business intelligence web page is here. The they are specialized in custom information, but it is how can I say it? It is gonna cost you money, but they have an option to have it for free. The problem or the detail of this free consultation that you can do, it is that you are just gonna have 3 months, so you can just check it uh, for only 3 months. You can only check it from November to January 2018. So it says the free sample just shows 3 months of information. So maybe we can check about let's see cars, for example, and we can see who's gonna be the importer. Of course, it's gonna be the exporter. So maybe you can see we are probably importers, and we go to search. So we're gonna wait a little for it to. So now we can see here. Oh wait, we're gonna see that we have. Oh wait, I put cars instead of in Spanish. I have to put in Spanish. Wait. You have to do it in Spanish because it is a we're using in Spanish. I made a mistake and I look at it in English. So we're gonna do the search again. Nope. Okay, so we're gonna look for imports from Peru for cars now in Spanish from November to January. So it is a really general. Now we have it. So it is a really general description. So we can see that we have juegos, we have toys, juguetes. So it means that the word carros it is in these tariffs, as you can see here. So if you have a more specific product, you can write it here. If you have the tariff, you can put it in here. So you can have more detailed information. In general, you can see how is it going with the seed, the percentage, and also the top countries of origin of those products. And the last one is trademark. Trademark. It is kind of like daily trade, but it is a free one and it shows you information from more years, not just 3 months. So in this case, we can see imports from, let's say, let's say animals, um, let's say live sheep and goats. From which country? So one see imports. So we're gonna see like imports from Peru, let's say, and we're gonna see the trade indicators. So look, in here we don't have that much information. It just says that we import from Bolivia. So it is a really, it doesn't have that kind of interaction with this side. So maybe we can see for another one. Let's see. In this case, apparel, knitted clothes. Now we have. So in case for apparel and clothing accessories, we can see that we import from China, Bangladesh, Colombia, Cambodia, and Vietnam, India, and Turkey. Those are the main ones. And we can see how the value in 2017 was, the trade, the share in the Peruvian imports. So we can see that 65.6% of what we imported from this tariff was from China. So China it is a big country. So we can see there how we can who we can buy to. Also, there's an option of companies, but it is not always really. Uh, we don't always have that information. If you register yourself, it is free. You can have that information. But since this is a free web page, when you click on companies, you may not have the most accurate information. Even though you can try, you can get your open your free account and check. So those are the most important business intelligence web pages that I can show you. If you can ask. We see a little more about this when on the classes that we have on Friday. That is Derivación para las importaciones. So we explain a little more over there because it is more detailed. But this is like a general view for today's session. So finally, these are the references where I have taken all the information to give you the presentation of today. So finally, I want to thank you for your attention and to being here with us. I hope that you have learned. So, like I told you, this was a session for communication and business specific data.